Right when Marcy comes in, were you part of that when she does the turnover?
Yeah, that's when it kind of ended.
I don't know how much people know about this Marcy person, but she came in and sort of changed the way Howard thought. Were you aware that this was what he was coming with?
It was game over.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Here's the Pitch, sponsored by Massa's Restaurants in St. Louis, 5 locations, stlmasses.com. I've got a big update on Beetlejuice. I talked to his manager. I want to tell you about that in a second, but I also want to tell you about my sponsor, stlmasses.com. So in 2021, going to continue these interviews. I'm looking for all kinds of different guests of people that have been on the show, who are part of the show, and Beetlejuice is one of them. So I'm going to tell you about that in a second. This is another clip show, though. This is the Marcy TURK effect. So these are people that work there during the era, before and after, and they talk about what it was like before, what it was like after. And a lot of people obviously did not last. Some were hired after and could tell you a little bit about what it was like during that. Brent Hatley will be part of this show, Tim Sabian, some of the people you've seen in the long-form interviews. But I take down those long-form interviews into this bite-sized thing so you can see all of their people talking about that. And it seems like people enjoyed it when I did this last time. Beetlejuice. So again, I am looking for anybody associated with the show. I've contacted many people, and hopefully we'll get a few more here as we move into 2021. But I did talk to Beetlejuice's manager. He will be part of the show one day, hopefully soon. But during COVID, he's been living with his mom in Georgia. He's not traveling. He's not doing any appearances. He's not really doing anything. He's doing well, according to his manager, so I appreciate that and hope that everyone hopes that he's doing well. But he has diabetes, so he's having some troubles traveling. So hopefully 2021 things will open up and we'll see Beetlejuice at our local bars and right here on Here's the Pitch. So hopefully you enjoyed that update on Beetlejuice. I just got off the phone with his manager, and again, he'll be hopefully part of the show with his manager during the next series of these interviews. But good luck to Beetlejuice. But all that out of the way, I want to make sure you subscribe, pass these videos along. It looks like the last one, again, was a big hit with everybody. So make sure that you're subscribing and liking and commenting and tell me who you'd like to see on the show next year as I keep doing these on ST Weekly. ST Weekly. Used to be Sports Talk Weekly, now Stern Talk Weekly. I'm trying to do a podcast once a week. And again, you can find these in podcast form as well if you just search Here's the Pitch. So with that all out of the way, let's talk about the Marcy TURK era. Again, she comes in around 2013. Howard shakes up the staff, and some people like it, some people don't. I guess most people didn't. But Tim Sabian was the first guy that I got to really talk about this with, and Doug Goodstein. So we'll hear about the Marcy TURK effect right now on Here's the Pitch. They were going through some major changes, too, from what I remember, because Howard had his address around 2013 to the whole staff, and we need to change things, and then Marcy comes in. Did those guys tell you, wow, this is really different here? I mean, things are different, or did they, how did it seem? How did the atmosphere seem to you?
Well, because I was there before and they're there. It was two totally different things. Now it's much more with everybody that came in now. It's much more structured and much more. There's a very definite, solid structure to it. Which with an organization that big, you kind of have to do that. You can't let things get out of control. So there's a definite, solid structure to things, and with that comes a little bit more red tape of getting your stuff on the air. But I understand. Like, you've got to the amount of stuff that's getting pitched to Howard. It's got to be cut down to a manageable amount that he actually gets to look at. So it's more structured. Last time it was a free for all, and that came through on the air too. Like, there's things to be said for a free for all, but I understand in an organization that large, it has to be brought under control, and it really was under control. They do have good systems in place there, and they do run a tight ship, and they do run a good organization. However, amidst all the criticism that they get, like, it's no easy task. You're the principal basically at a kindergarten, because all of us were very immature thinking. Sal, Richard, me, JD, Shuli. I mean, that group alone. Then you start throwing in Jason and Will and Gary. Like, I mean, could you have a group of more immature guys? Like, Gary is like the most mature one of all of us, and controlling us which we needed to be controlled at times, is not easy. So I would not want that job, but they have done a good job of putting a structure in there and running a tight ship.
I don't know how much people know about this Marcy person, but she came in and sort of changed the way Howard thought. Did it have anything to do with Howard TV, or did that kind of that stuff stay?
I don't know. I mean, she kind of came around like, you know, that kind of tail end. So we didn't have a terrible amount of dealings with her. We were kind of our own operation. So maybe that was why things didn't work out, you know, because we were kind of independent and our own operation, and we worked for a separate company. So that separate company had a lot of say in things, at least as far as like, you know, what we could do and, you know, how we were treated. But yeah, I don't know. I can't say for sure.
What? So you were around, right, when Marcy comes in? Were you part of that when she does the turnover?
Yeah, that's when it kind of ended. So Marcy came in and you know, she kind of took over the show, and then Howard didn't re-sign, and that was it. It was over, you know. And you know, to me, I was just like, all right, it's over. You know, like I worked there for 16 years, and I was like, you know what, this was a great experience. I work in television, man. I had jobs that were supposed to go 3 years, and they went a month. You know, so shit ends. You know, it's gonna happen. So I wasn't really pissed off. I was just kind of like, the only thing I was kind of mad at is that I found out like everybody else on the air. That was the weird thing. It was like, we didn't know what was going to happen. We're like, Doug, what's happening? He's like, I don't know. We don't know. Blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, Howard's like, yeah, we're not going to do the Howard TV anymore. It's done. And we're like, we all turned around and looked at Doug like, what? And he goes, this is the first I'm hearing about it. And it's true that we all found out together. That's my only bad, you know, thing about the show, is that's how I found out. It would have been nice to know beforehand, because we knew something was happening, but we didn't know if he was going to stream and keep it on the stream, or we didn't know what the hell was going to happen. So it turns out we found out, and that was it. So I was like, all right, you know, that night we got a call or an email, you know, that's it. We got a month left of production, and then it's over. And we did our last month, and which was kind of great too, because Metallica had to come in, and we went to the Apollo show, and we're like fifth row, and we're watching the Metallica like right in front of our faces. And then they came in 2 days later. There was a Friday night show. They came in on Monday, or maybe a Saturday night show, whatever night it was. And they came in on Monday, and that was kind of cool too, because I was talking to the management. I knew some of the guys from the management of Metallica from Q Prime. And when they came in, Gary walked in with a piece of paper, and he's like, here you go, Brian. And the guys from the management from Q Prime went to Metallica, and they all had them sign the set list and gave me the set list. Cool. That was like a great going away present. I was like, holy shit, a fucking Metallica signed set list from the Apollo, a show that, you know, was a once in a lifetime show. So that was pretty cool. That was a good way to go out.
And it's weird. I know, you know, as Gary, that they've evolved. Thoughts on just kind of how it's going? Because I don't think they don't really bring in comedians anymore, right? You haven't been in a long time, and has it been?
No, they do like more like they're only on 3 days a week, and they got A-listers coming in now. They never used to get Lady Gaga, Madonna, and Bradley Cooper and stuff like that. They had dirtbags like us. So the show's changed. It's fine. I still do the wrap-up show like twice a year. We're all friends. I still talk to all those guys. I see them because I work at Sirius. I work on the Hard Rock Channel, Ozzy's Boneyard. I do a show over there. So I'm always up there doing different shows. So it's all good. Hey, man, the way I look at Howard is like he discovers you, he launches you, and then you're on your own. He gives you that moment, and, hey, make it work while I give you all this exposure, and then I'm going to move on from you, and I'm going to bring other people in. That's the way I always looked at it. So I've never had any regrets or be mad at him that I don't go on the show anymore. I'm like, the guy gave me a huge break. I'll always be grateful.
Yeah, and like I said, I named those guys off, Craig Gass and Greg Fitzsimmons. I didn't really know those guys at that point. Of course, you guys have all done different things since, but you're right. I mean, you go on there twice, and people are going to know who you are. So,
yeah, that was awesome.
So again, the show is different now. You're not really on there as much, right? I mean, he doesn't really even have comedians call in or sit in or any of that.
No, it's the craziest thing. I would always still relish the opportunity to go in there and volley with them on a regular basis again. But like I said, I don't know. I mean, it just seems like the show is evolving to something completely different. Even when we used to go in there creatively, look, It was a different vibe back then. I don't know what it's like now. It'd be unfair for me to say that. I just know that I'm called upon every once in a while to do something. Can you do this or do that? And Howard's always been gracious. So, but yeah, it's changed.
Well, you did stuff with Tan Mom, right?
Yes, I did.
Tan Mom.
Oh, Tan Mom. Yeah, I did. I did a phone call with her. A lot of people heard. They like that. Tan Mom.
I don't like Tan Mom. I don't get it, but that's fine.
You're a fan of mine. I've heard Tan Moms. I call it Tan Moms.
It was business on why the show didn't come back, right? And contracts, they come and they go, and sometimes they're not always done. But on the other side, on the personal side, yes, I've been there for 24 years. It's a long time. It's probably, I felt in my mind, I was not in a position that, you know, you should find this out on the air and that's really how we're going to go out. But there was still always the chance the video portion of the show was still going to stick around in some version. So it wasn't really like, hey, you know, you're done, until they finally were like, yeah, I guess, you know, no deals are being made, you know. But yeah, it was really odd to hear it. It was really sad. It was sad for everybody that worked on the Howard TV team, because they, you know, again, everybody really cared about this product and cared about working on the show. And I think everybody just got deflated hearing that's the way the show was going to go out and not getting, you know, even a personal heads up an hour before, 15 minutes before anything, you know, that, you know, you're hearing this news on the radio and, you know, it does hurt that way. It does sting.
Did you have a chance ever to talk to Howard about it?
No, we had very like limited, you know, I was there until the end of that year. Some people didn't last as long because, you know, once the show was deemed that it wasn't coming back, you know, the company had like a layoff plan in place, you know, where certain employees we were going to purge as we were going closer to the end of the contract date where, you know, obviously we weren't going to be producing new content. So I was there, you know, I think myself, Doug, and one other person were there to the very bitter end. But yeah, no, I mean, there was a few little interactions, but nothing really. Nothing to speak of.
Do you go, what the fuck?
Dude, I can't, you know, like, this is how I've always looked at it. I can't control how somebody else reacts to things. You know what I mean? Like, and I can't put my expectations on somebody else because they're not me, and everybody acts the way they're going to act, and they're never going to change just for me. So I took it as this is the way he is, and this is the way he acts, and that's what it is.
And then we move into the 2013, and we've seen on YouTube there's the summit meeting. What was that like as he's sort of changing, and as Gary would always say, evolving, quote, what was the summit meeting like for you when you see Howard on that stage saying, you know, I want A-listers? Were you aware that this was what he was coming with?
It was game over. It was game over for me. We were on an attack that was so powerful and so successful. If there was no, when you do a change like that, you got to show value add. You got to show to the audience why you're doing what you're doing. It's not that it was wrong what he did. It was in the way that it happened that was wrong. So, but it is what it is. It's his bat, his ball, his game. So he can do whatever he'd like to do. So God bless him.
Yeah, and that's, you said it was the beginning of the end. The end happened so weirdly. I know you've told this story before, but your father passes away, right? And you've decided, this is kind of be my time where I want to maybe take a leave of absence. Tell me that story, because it does really, when I heard this, I'm like, man, that's a terrible way to end it for a guy who's been with him so long.
Yeah, it was personal, and I said, okay, whatever, and I just let it go. But it was a moment. It was a lot of things. Both my parents were dying at the same time. That was very hard. I never even knew how to even deal with that, and it was tough. But You know, because I literally dedicated my life to Howard. I moved from Philadelphia to New York on my own dime. I believed in him and what we were doing so deeply, and it was such a part of my life. And when that happened, it was tough. But life goes on. You pick up and you move on.
Yeah, so you did move on, but how long does it take to get over not being there? Because at this point, essentially, he just says you wanted to take a leave of absence, and he goes, "I'm just going to let you go." Which did he ever explain what that was about? But then, secondly,
it doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't deserve discussion. But the thing is, you pick up, you move on. It's not how many times you get knocked down; it's how many times you get up. And it literally, like when the Howard TV crew was cut loose. You know, Doug called me up and said, "Hey, I just got fired." You know, I said, "Dude, it's the best thing that'll ever happen to you." And he goes, "Why? What do you mean?" I said, "It'll take you 2 months to recoup, to get your soul back, your heart back, your psyche back, your sleep patterns back, and all that kind of stuff, because you live it every single day. You're brainwashed. You're living in a bubble. And when you get out of it and you see that there's life outside of it, you go, oh my God. You know, and it really is like a rebirth. And so you know, it's what you go through, you know, and life has its ups and downs, and that was one of the greatest ups of my career, and I'll be forever grateful. But you know, you move on, you rebuild yourself, and it takes time. So it's all good.
That's what I was gonna say too, because there was a point there where I was sort of in and out, and then there's a Mehmet who shows up, and a Nowicki, and Chris Wilde, all these people that I'd never heard of, and I'm like, where are they coming from, and why is he bringing them all in? What did you think of all this new, or was it I need younger new talent? I've got Will, I got Jason, they've been with me for 20 years, but I want some newer, fresher voices.
Well, I don't think it was that. I think it was, you know, Mehmet is an interesting guy to begin with. So, like, he's interesting to talk to off the air, but on the air, he's even more interesting to talk to. And I like the fact that he will let his, neuroses, come through the mic. Nowicki is just a talented performer, kind of an interesting guy. Like, he can build guitars and set models. And, he's just an interesting, very, very talented guy. And Chris Wilding's one of those other people like me that's completely insane. So they kind of pick the people out in the office that are somewhat on some level interesting or quirky or insane, and that's what Howard can really break down. There's a ton of people that work there that are perfectly normal, middle of the road people, but that's not the ones that you hear on the air. You hear the insane people on the air because that's what's interesting. Like, you don't want to hear the guy that's sitting next to you in the cubicle at Barclays or at the guy that's working with you at Home Depot. That's not what you're looking to hear. You're looking to hear people that are really out of their minds, and I think that's what they look for.
Yeah, and early on when you're talking about getting that kid thing, you could see him just, well, he's a kid, yeah. He's an intern. I don't need him, right? It's
yeah. Look, at the end of the day, Howard doesn't need anybody except himself, really, right? The show still, it's his name, it's his show. If everybody else disappeared, he'd still be doing a show and be all by himself and just be fine. But I think we did all bring something to that show. I don't think that we didn't have anything to do with its success. I think he would have been successful no matter what, but I do think that there were certain things that people loved about us being on the show that I think, we brought some value to that.
Would you have been a lifer there if you could have? Would you have just stayed as long as the party was going?
Yeah, what are you kidding me? I would cool. I'd still be there if I had to, man. That would have been the deal to still work there. But like I said, man, TV shows end, and you just got to move on and do your next phase, and that's what I did. I freelanced around for a while, and I was at the Yankees, I was at the Mets, I was at Boomer Show, I was doing CNN. And this whole COVID thing knocked everything out of whack, and now there's no work. And like I said, I'm lucky enough to be working, but I got 10 more games as of right now, and then the playoffs are gonna go to a bubble too, and then I'm gonna be out of that. So there's nothing going on for me, after this month.
Well, we'll drink. Let's just drink.
Dude, I've been drinking for 6 months. So have I.
Like when I first got there, it was like you dealt with Gary. Then all of a sudden, as a whole, it was Gary then Howard. Then all of a sudden it's all these people, and you don't know if Howard's saying anything because Howard's always been good to me. So, you know, I might have fucking got a little loud at the end and did something I shouldn't have, but I was trying to get his attention. I wasn't going to hurt him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you threatened him, right?
Well, yeah, I threatened to kill him. I had the NYPD blue at my house and suits with my cops. They lit up the street and they just wanted to talk to me. They said the FBI's involved. This is bad, you know? And I'm like, dude, if I wanted him dead, he'd be dead. And they're like, you can't say that. And I'm like, look, I'm just telling you. And I said it again. And they're like, you can't say that, you know? But it was more like people turn on you in a second. And I'm not used to that. I have friends that'll kill for me and I will for them. So I didn't know how to deal with people, you know, in a different way of being, oh, okay. You know what I mean? Since you told me that, I won't.
When did you, I don't remember this happening. I did some research and I saw that you threatened to kill him, but I don't remember it happening. How did this happen? When did this happen and what was the circumstances?
Well, okay, this is the whole thing. You know what I mean? Basically, they called and Jared said that I attacked 4 security guards outside. This is when I'm heavily on Xanax, 6 milligrams a day, okay? Really fucking, now I'm just like, you know, it takes your emotions low or high. If you get angry, you get more angry than you'll ever be. It's a horrible drug. If you're calm, it makes you really calm. And then he goes, I go, call me, you know, he goes, I'll call you the next day. He calls me the next day and he goes, I go, I never attacked those security guards. I like them. We get along. I get along with everybody. And he's like, I never said that, Jared said. And my friend's sitting there that I do a podcast with. And I'm like, okay. I go, well, find out what's going on. And I'd like to talk to some. Next day, calls back and he said, but I said, I'm going to kill him and his wife. I'm going to cut them up and, you know, and I'm playing it. And I've even talked to the detective that was not, you know, that was his bodyguard, not Ronnie. It was a detective that would be having. And we talked on the phone once because he hit me up. He goes, Bob, I know you're in that. And I said, let me explain. I said, talk to me. And I talked to him and I said, I'm going to do exactly what I did with a knife, but I'm going to say it's an ice cream cake. And I did it. Like I was going to cut up an ice cream cake. And he goes, you're very good at this. I go, yes, I am. I go, yeah, I can have you believe what the fuck. That's what radio is. You know what I mean? That's what radio is. You think I couldn't say those words? You think, you know, are you kidding me? As we did these words that I couldn't say, you know, hedonism. I couldn't say that. I couldn't say any of these words. But it's what is good for the radio at that point. You know what I mean? And then you try to get away from it and move on to something else. That's what I always tried to do.
So an interesting look back at when Marcy TURK took over and the changes that were made. And it's a different show for sure. Some people love it still, some people don't. But I'm here just to talk to the people that used to work there and get their thoughts. I'm not here to stir anything up, of course. But hopefully you enjoyed this. Again, subscribe, like these videos, share them, let people see them, let people know what's going on over here at ST Weekly, as we'll be doing this a lot in 2021. And send me some people you'd like to see here, as I've pretty much contacted as many people as I can think of, but there's always room for more. Thanks.